Have we actually planned anything? No.
My one piece of luxury is I pay for an aisle seat.
Always put my safety first before anything else.
The pencil gets erased because once I finally do research, plans change.
You can just book whatever flight you're comfortable with. Welcome to Where She Builds,
the podcast where two globetrotting solopreneurs share the real journey of building a life and business on the move.
I'm Shandy, an online personal trainer helping people feel strong anywhere in the world.
And I'm Anna, creator of Your Travel Friend Anna, a global community and go-to resource for those wanting to live a fulfilling and culturally curious life.
Thanks for being here.
Let's dive into this week's episode.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Where She Builds podcast. My name is Anna, joined always by my partner in podcasting, Shandy. Coach Shandy, how are you today? Good morning.
Good afternoon. 8 minutes
Actually,
afternoon.
yeah, technically. Good afternoon.
Now that we're on the same time zone.
I know. Isn't it so nice to just I never have to guess if you're awake or tired or you need another coffee or not. We're in line now.
Especially because the first months of doing the podcast, it was always the time zone game too, right?
Yeah.
And now it's nice. Just have a nice coffee and then we're ready to go. Yeah.
I could use a second one already. Usually I'm 2, if not 3 deep by now, but we've got one. We're caffeinated enough.
Okay, good. Maybe in between the Chitty Chat and the other recording, we're going to have a coffee.
Yeah. It's highly likely going to happen. So this we'll see how this goes. But
it's always good to sip something.
Are you this week, lovely Coach Andy?
Good. Busy. Really crazy busy, but good. Yeah. I feel like I'm just a broken record at this point. I'm just always saying I'm busy, and then I'm always like, it's gonna be better next week.
I think it's really, but I like that you say that you're busy, because is the busyness this week the same that it was last week?
It's more, it's different, because when my parents were here, then it was a very busy with traveling and busy with hosting. And now it's busy with playing catch up, getting stuff done, and just catching up and getting through all the client calls and check-ins and program making and reach outs and everything like that. So it's just different, but good busy.
Yeah. I think that's what you answered what I was hoping you would answer. Kind of perfect. Because I think it's good to open to our audience that your busy last week was because you had people visiting and you were trying to match that and show them the environment. And then this week is very business related, meetings, catching up on the work, staying in maintenance mode, but maybe pushing some of those future projects as well.
We had plans. The plans did not work out.
We're still on Thursday as we're recording this.
It's okay. We'll see. Yeah, it's good. No, it was yesterday I had plans of going more into depth onto starting work on my website, but then a couple of things took a little bit longer, and then by the time it was 7 o'clock, and then I was like, okay, maybe not today, because I also want to create that boundary still for myself. And I was talking with a fellow personal trainer, somebody that's working at the gym with me, and he was telling me about his hours, how he was working from 6 a.m. till 8 p.m. every day, grinding everything. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, why is that something, and not dissing anybody by any means, but I just thought, why is that something that we as a collective always tend to be proud of, saying I'm working all these big hours and I'm going from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. and I'm just grinding, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what is that? Of course, yeah, you're making more money and you're growing your business, and that's amazing.
Are you making more money?
Well, that's the thing. And is the trade-off of making more money versus your sanity, is that worth it as well? Because I feel like if you can protect your boundaries better, then aren't you going to be better overall? Aren't you going to be more productive in the hours that you do put in? And if you give yourself a hard deadline and being done by 6 p.m., you got to get that stuff done. And if you don't get it done, then yeah, okay, that's fine. And it's fine to work maybe once or twice a week later, in my opinion. But if you constantly work until 9 or 10 p.m. and then you're up at 5 a.m. and then you're doing that over and over again, I feel like that's just a recipe for burnout.
I don't genuinely think that those who work from this, we're going to use this gentleman's example, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., he is producing more than if he worked 12 to 8 p.m. Because I do really think the theory of, if you are given 4 hours to do 3 tasks, for example, you will get them done in those 4 hours. If you are given 8 hours to do the same 3 tasks, you will take those 8 hours to get the 3 tasks done. And I think this is why in the corporate setting, they are adjusting the work week to be maybe 4 days a week versus 5 days a week, or fluctuating hours, because the tasks are the same. And if you are someone who works faster or slower, now you have this ability to adjust as you need. Maybe you have those dependents, maybe you have other responsibilities. So I want to commend you and applaud you and just say, I see you for creating a boundary, and I am applauding you more than him. Apologies to this human who doesn't, I don't know.
Well,
But
and
it's just,
I mean,
yeah,
it's fine if it works for him, and he sounds like somebody that gets very energized with those things. But for me, when I heard that, I felt a I don't know, a feeling in my chest where I was like, oh, I felt so anxious hearing that he is working such long hours. And I'm trying to because whenever I talk with somebody, I always try to put myself in their shoes and be like, how do I see it from their perspective? And when I did that, I just thought like, oh my gosh, that's something that I don't want to do. And he was asking me about where I see my business going in the next couple of years. We had a really good conversation, and I said, you know what, I'm actually really happy with the way that my business is going and the way that it's growing. And I don't know if I would make any changes right now. Like, I'm happy with how I'm growing and the ability to still be able to travel, like make plans to go to Belize in January and just things like that. Like, I think that's something that many people would fight for. And I think that's something that I want to continue to do. And maybe if growing my business and make a couple extra dollars here and there, if I have to trade off the fact that I can travel, then yeah, I don't want to make that extra money. I want to be able to have the experiences and put that into real life instead of just have a number in my bank account.
100%. And also this idea of like, I work 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Do you really work all those hours? Because I could account for, I met friends for coffee today. That's an hour of networking, maybe. Is that considered work? Whereas when we record, this is clearly work hours for me. This is like dedicated time. It's time on my schedule. So for me, about a 6 hour, I call it billable work. I think I've talked about this before, this billable back to you. But I don't consider this chance of meeting these people, which could lead to something in the future. Who knows? So I think it's bullfrog. I'm sorry. I'm calling it out on him. I don't think he actually works 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. because at some point he has to eat food. And you can't tell me that you were grinding when you're ordering the food at the same time and or making it. So I think maybe his day starts at 6 a.m. and it ends at 8 p.m. And that's when he really feels the release to like lounge out, relax.
Yeah,
But,
well, and I think that's what it is, because as a personal trainer, because of the hours of the job, like most people are going to work at 9 a.m. So maybe you work the shift 6 to 9, and then you have another person coming in at 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. because that's their lunch breaks. That's kind of the times that you do. And then from 4 o'clock until 8 o'clock, those are kind of the days. Otherwise, people have the normal working hours, and not many people come in to do sessions at that time unless they're retired or have other reasons for that. But yeah, then I mean, I understand. I mean, they're kind of like, I also say, let's say, for example, today I had sessions starting at 8 a.m. and then I have until 7 p.m. tonight. But then I have I have an hour here and a half an hour there and everything. And like, I just scarfed down some lunch right before we had a call, and that was 15 minutes break. And yeah, so I'm not working the full day, but maybe you are preoccupied the full day too. I don't know.
Or you're the time in which you flip the sign, if you were a door open to closed, is that 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I can resonate with that. Like, mine's starting at 12. It'll probably close at 8. So yes, it's less hours today. But yeah, it's just different. And I think we should applaud and celebrate the folks who are taking those boundaries and those steps away and encouraging the slow morning, should it be something, and encouraging the slow moments in between, whether it's from 1 to 4 p.m., if you just went and sat in the park, and you still consider that part of your work day, but you just sat in the park and just like breathed in some fresh air and had a moment to sit on a bench, and you weren't grinding, producing, pushing, let's applaud that over the like really grinding hours, because I think it just leads to burnout. Like, I don't know, the equation always makes sense. It leads to burnout. And then you're stuck.
And then you're not being productive at all for the time that you're burnt out. And there's no calculation of, okay, I'm only going to be burnt out for 1 week. No, that's not how that works. So I think it's really important to, draw those boundaries and make sure that you are comfortable with the hours that you're working and feel rejuvenated by the end of the day. So maybe you feel tired because of the sessions or the conversations that you're having or the work that you're putting in. But I always think that if you are passionate about what you do and you have something that you're working forward or working towards, so for example, a goal or something in the future, then I don't think that you'll ever get burnt out from that, because that's something that you always have in your horizons and something that you're always looking forward to, and drawing those boundaries, that's a recipe for success, I think.
I definitely agree. And I just to use you as an example, you had 2 weeks where you had other people, other responsibilities, and now instead of grinding again, pushing till 10 p.m., you are still keeping those habits and those schedules alive, which I think you will take into next week, which hopefully is a little bit more of a normal. There's never a normal week in this world, but
No.
maybe a little bit more consistent. I think that's a better choice of words, a consistent
Yeah.
week. So
Yeah.
you don't have to deal with it too much.
Yeah. And I wanted to bring up, because you brought this up right before our podcast, and I'm curious. You said that you met up with some people earlier today.
Yeah,
How was
to
that?
switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
So apparently it's Canadian week. I don't know.
I love it.
I have met 3 Canadians this week, which is the
Oh,
most in 3.5 years of travel that I've ever met in 1 week. So, and like,
okay.
I say true Canadians because we've been so privileged to have people on the podcast, but you know, maybe they came at university, they've lived half their life there, they have roots there.
Let's
But
say native
yes,
Canadians. Yeah.
yeah, native Canadians I think is a great term, and it's just been so nice to you know, I think there's like instant friendship, and also no one from Quebecois, like Quebec, no one's Quebecois, so this is also a rarity
Okay.
that I would get 3 anglophones. So it's just been so nice. One of them is staying where I'm staying, and then the other one, through the power of social media, fellow creators, and yeah, just like reached out. And I think it's still, again, the concept we've talked about, I think around episode 6 or 7, where we were saying how you can meet friends while traveling. I think, you know, maybe I made the first move and I said, hi, I would like to have coffee with you. And I've just like been politely pushing to make sure that we find a time to meet up, because these relationships, as our relationship has flourished, you never know where they can go. And it's just been nice. Like, I don't know, it's really warmed my heart.
I love that.
And in this Canadian world, there is one, I just have to bring up a side tangent of, there is one English word that maybe we talked about it before, like episode 2, and I was going to ask you if you could ask your partner, the word quirky. Did we bring this up
Oh,
before?
maybe. Yeah, probably in episode 2. What, 20 episodes ago?
I have experienced this multiple times where in text message or in person, I've used the word quirky, and the person I've been talking to is ESL, but a really strong English language, like fluent vocabulary has been great and everything. They're like, what does quirky mean? And it's such a good word. Peculiar, curious, but a touch of nerdy is my best way
Yeah.
to describe it. Do you have any other words that we should be describing quirky with?
Gosh. I feel like it's like cute, like you're a little cutesy, quirky,
It's like
like you've got
cute,
these different
nerdy.
behaviors than what normal people would have. Like it's like
Yeah.
you have this thing that you do that nobody else does, but you're like, oh, that's cute. It's quirky.
But it's not girly cute, it's not feminized, it's not kid
No.
cute, it's quirky.
It's quirky. There's no other way to describe it. It's
I
like the
know.
Dutch word gezellig. There's not an English term for it. So maybe there's not a good way to describe quirky, because it's
Maybe it's like,
is it a Canadian term?
no, it's a
English
real
term?
word. It's a real word. Real
Well, not
word.
I mean, toque is also a real word, but that's Canadian.
I don't know. I just had to bring that up. If you've ever had someone be, I think you should try and use it at the gym for those who speak English and see what, be like, oh, you know, yeah, it was just
You're
like
so
a quirky situation that was going on, and see if they give any reverb back to you.
I'll try it, and I will let you know how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. I also wanted to,
Amazing.
on the note of making friends, I talked about in one of my newsletters actually about this app called Nomad Table, which I've been trying out.
Okay.
In Albania. I had to put all the privacy settings on because men kept sliding into my DMs.
Oh no. Okay.
Albanian men. They're crazy. I'm sorry, but you guys are. If anyone's from there, like. Anyway, so it has really cool settings as a female traveler. One, you can turn on a setting that doesn't let men message you one-on-one. And then the second setting now that is separate is that you can hide your Instagram profile from men if you like. And it's crazy that we have to have these settings, but they have been very helpful. However, I met a friend here also in where I am, and we've been hanging out all week. So they've been coming for runs with me. We've been having coffee. We're going to go exploring on Saturday. So I just wanted to say it is success. And I think I'll continue to try and use it and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing that it has those protective qualities too, though, because that's something that, you know that a woman is working on it. That's something that
someone's in the back end, and I
someone's in the back
love
end.
it. I think it might be
But it's-
helpful for you as well, because if you can propose activities. So if there was
Okay.
something in town, okay, I don't know, like a stroopwafel festival, and Pat didn't want to go with you, or you wanted to meet new friends, you can propose this activity, and then it makes this group chat around this activity, and you get
Oh
to
my
meet new
gosh.
people.
That is such an extroverted thing for you to say, Anna.
You can
I
do
heard that. I
it.
was like, no. Sounds amazing for you.
What if there was a me on the app that proposed it? Would you join?
I think if I had somebody that I knew that would also want to go with me, then I would
That's
go.
the whole purpose.
I know, that's the thing. But for me, I need comfort. I need to either know the area that I'm going to. I need to be familiar with it, or I need to be familiar with people with me. I can't have both things unfamiliar
what
because
if
I have
you
such bad
knew
anxiety around it.
the exact market square was happening, and you've
Then
been
I
to it in
would-
previous years, and you're
Yeah.
open to meeting new people?
Then yes. Yes.
Okay.
If all of the stars aligned, then yes. I mean, like, I've done the meetup before here in the
Yeah.
Netherlands. Like, I went to the meetup, but that took a lot of coaxing myself in because I'm very introverted, and it takes a lot to be like, okay, you're going to meet new people. You're going to be okay. I have to really pep talk myself. And that's, I mean, it's fine, but that was a very extroverted thing for you to say.
Okay. Okay, interesting.
But I love the idea. The idea is great.
I just didn't think that you were that. I know you're introverted, but I don't know why I thought you have such an open mind to meeting other people in other cultures and understanding being an expat yourself. I mean, you are not really an expat because there's no end date, but just being from somewhere else and that understanding of like not understanding the place where you're in. I feel you would succeed on it and you would make great friends. And I do think it is the once you try it and get over that hump of, I'm meeting people, because I feel that same way. When I'm with one person that I trust or understand, my extroverted side is like frothing, thriving and frothing. So I feel like when I'm with one person, I am, yes, the most extroverted friend that's asking anyone on the street everything. But if I'm by myself, I'm so instantly way more introverted, which I think is pretty normal. So
yeah. No, I do have to agree with that. And like, again, maybe just sitting here in my mind, I think that's scary. And then like if I pep talk myself, and then it's fine, I would go and I would do it. And I think it's a great idea. It's a great way for introverts to meet people. It's a great way for extroverts to meet people. And it's a good way to meet people in general. I love it.
Well, you can see who's coming. So that gives you at least some peace of mind where you can see country, age, sometimes social media profiles. And then there's a group conversation ahead of time. So you can naturally probably tell who's like more extroverted just by the conversation that's going. So it gives you this nice, moment of people being able to get to know each other just for those brief moments before they meet in person. So it's called Nomad Table if anyone wants to check it out.
You just read my mind. I was just going to say one more time, what is it called? But never mind.
Yeah, there's another one called Trip BFF and
Okay.
Ferry Nomad or something. Ferry Travel. I haven't tried those. I think I'm going to try and stick with just one because then you become more familiar with it and just know how to use it better. So we'll see how it goes. But
cool. Love it.
Yeah, it's been great. And today's episode is fitting into everything we talked about and many of our other episodes about travel and how we plan travel and how we do this thing that we talk about all the time. And I'm very excited for you to listen to it because I think there's going to be some interesting insight or relatable moments of how you also plan travel and maybe some considerations to think about.
And some good tips.
Yes, some good tips. All right, let's get into it with today's episode.
Yes, let's do it. I'll be your B to your A.
That's really cute, actually. I don't feel like you're a B, though. You're like a B+.
It depends on it depends on who I'm with. I can very much be an A or I can very much be a B.
If you're with an A, you become a B.
Yes. 100%.
I can also become a B if I'm with a certain A. I think I was pretty B when I was with you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me where to go, what to do, and I'll follow along. But if I needed to A, I could, and some people can't A if they need to.
I feel like we're very, how would you call that? AB? Ambidextrous is if you're with both hands, so what would it be?
I think just flexible.
Okay. Keep it simple.
Yeah. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to this episode. What you just heard was like a pre-chat that I have decided I'm going to keep in the recording now because it definitely tunes into what this episode is about, because we are talking about how to plan a trip, whether you're budget backpacking or long-term travel, and whether you're a hyper-organized type A planner to a spontaneous type B traveler. And Shandy clarified that she had to ask what a type A and type B was to Google. But since we've been to over 80 countries together, we have a few ideas to discuss about talking about accommodations, food, money, logistics, and what you can do to make your next travel journey a little bit smoother, like smooth peanut butter versus crunchy. I thought you might like that, Shandy.
I did love it. But are you a smooth kind of gal or are you crunchy with peanut butter?
Depends. Again, I can be A or B. So sometimes
Okay.
you like a little crunch and sometimes, most of the time, smooth, to be honest.
Really? Oh, I'm
Yes.
a crunchy gal. Okay.
Okay, you're type B anyway.
Anyways, but yeah, so to set the scene, you said that we've both been to, or together, we've been to 80 countries. We both travel longer term as well, and it's very rare that we go on 3-day or 1-week vacations anymore. And that's how we'll be approaching this topic of travel planning. So let's get into it.
Definitely. Okay, so what kind of traveler are you is our first question. Are you type A and type B? And maybe in this little like pre-ramble, I clarified. Overall, I'm definitely a type A traveler. I do like to make the decisions of what we're doing and how we're doing it. But with the right type A person alongside me, I can become a type B, and certain type A's can relax to be a B. So when I was with Shandy and her partner, I definitely relaxed into the B part. Overall, I enjoy taking the lead, especially in the day-to-day activities.
See? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I could be 50-50. It really depends on who I'm with. I could be a type A if I need to be, but I can also be a type B if I need to be. And it also, again, depends on who you're with, because if it's for you, is you being the type A, I would be like, okay, I'll follow you wherever you go. But if there's another type A that's like too much type A, do you know what I
Yes.
mean? Where it's like, okay, at 8 a.m. we have to have breakfast. At 8:30 we have to do this. At 9 a.m. we have to do this. I'd be like, okay, let's do our own thing and we can meet up somewhere else, because I don't like to be told exactly what to do. But
I do think I, over time since traveling, have become a soft type A. I have learned to be flexible, to maybe extend my trip a little bit, to just see where the day takes us. I like to have 1 or 2 things planned, but honestly, I was like, we're going to go to coffee at some point to this coffee shop. I didn't know that we would end up meeting this person, da da da. So a soft type
Yeah.
A, perhaps.
I li-
But I
okay,
definitely
I
lean
like
on that side.
I like that though, a soft type A.
Yeah, but
Makes it
I'm
very
not a
cozy.
B. I'm not 100% a B. I'm like a A minus, and I think you're a B plus. So that's how I'm going to phrase it now.
We're so close. We're so close.
I know. I know. Because I can see you being A. Anyway, I'm going on tangent.
Yeah.
Let's get to the next question already. This is what we dive into these way too fast, and we have so much good information to share with you.
Yes. Okay, Anna, do you love the planning stage? Is that kind of your thing, or do you absolutely hate it?
Well, going back to question 1, thinking I'm type A that I would love planning, and I actually really do love planning. I find it comes quite naturally to me, but because I'm solo traveling so much, it is something I am dreading more, and perhaps why I am staying about a month in each place now, because I just can't be bothered to look into the next destination and how to get there, and also how to maximize time. I think that's the A in me, is wanting to maximize my time solo, and if I'm with people, then that's usually when I will take the effort to research and such. But I just get so caught up in the day-to-day of living in the place that I forget to research. What do you like to do? Do you like to plan?
I hate it. I hate it. Pat and I were planning our trip to Central America at the beginning of January, February, and we both collectively decided that we hate buying plane tickets because it takes so much time to look for tickets. It takes so much effort to and research into what's the best one, and then you also have to always decide what's it worth to have a direct flight or to have like just one layover versus, because you can have a lot cheaper flights if you have 3 stopovers, but then you're also traveling for 37 hours. So is that the best thing? And then you're always like balancing back and forth. So no, I absolutely hate it. I hate the planning part of it. I like finding accommodations. I think that's kind of fun. Like whatever. I like that. But no, flights, nemesis. I hate it.
I have a
I'm very
travel fail
passionate.
story that I'm noting for us to share it next week in the Chitty Chat. So if you want to
Okay.
hear the stupidest mistake I've ever made in 3.5 years of traveling because of this whole cheap layover, maximize my time, Oh, basically, I should have just booked the more expensive flight, long story short, because it's ending up costing me the same. So listen to next week's Chitty Chat for that. I forgot to tell you
My
about it
mouth
this week,
just dropped.
Shandy.
I need to. I can't wait till next week. Okay.
Let's just put a big L on my head for loser. Okay,
Oh,
moving
no.
on. What's the first thing, though, when you are starting to plan? Do you look at flights or accommodations or the destination first? I think for me, it's really about the destination. If I'm moving a bit faster, I actually look at maybe the destination after destination A. So let's use Canada as an example. If I'm going to Montreal and then I want to go to Toronto after, I might actually look at Toronto and work backwards. But for me,
Yeah.
it's always flights first and then looking into accommodations. I think that's why I'm looking farther ahead is if there's a really good flight from Montreal to Toronto or a train ride, then I'm looking, okay, when am I going to arrive into Montreal before I get to Toronto? Toronto. Get it? If you get it, you
Toronto.
get it. Toronto. And then accommodations secondary based on when I'm arriving. What about you?
Yes. Yeah. I'd echo everything you just said. Definitely flights first. That's something that I think makes sense because if you can't find a good flight or it's too expensive or too much, then I would not go to that destination. So I always look at flights first, then accommodation second, depending on what our whole plan is. Because sometimes we go on places that you fly there and then you want to go, let's say from like country to country, and you're not sure how much time you're going to spend in each country while you're doing Southeast Asia is a great example of that. You fly into Malaysia and maybe you want to go into Thailand or Cambodia or in Indonesia, anything like that. So then you fly into Malaysia, you have to figure out what accommodations you want to be, but how much time do you want to spend in Malaysia until you go to Thailand? How much time do you want to spend in Thailand before you go to Vietnam? Those kinds of things. So it's always that kind of puzzle. And sometimes we leave it till last minute. Like maybe we're already in Malaysia and then we book the accommodation for the next couple weeks or things like that. So keeping it kind of spontaneous also makes it very exciting, but always making sure the flights are at least booked and then making everything around the flights. That's kind of what we always do.
I think something to consider is depending when your flight arrives, if it's a very late flight or very early morning flight, maybe it is worth to book that one night really close to the airport or the arrival station. And then this conversation is a bit difficult because we're looking at longer term trips. So yes, it depends how long you're staying in a destination, but in some cases it is worth paying a little bit more to stay at the hotel near the airport instead of having to take a certain bus really early in the morning or taking a taxi. So you got to look at all those the little details in between. And breakfast, like it might cost you more to just or might cost you less to actually eat at the hotel buffet instead of trying to get somewhere to get cheaper food.
Well, and this could also be a controversial take with traveling, let's say, on a cheaper budget, but I will always spend the extra money to make sure that I safely get to where I need to be. So if, let's say, I have a late flight, I'm not going to be cheap and take like the bus that I have to walk a mile to get to and then take the bus to go to somewhere because I don't feel safe that way. I'd much rather spend an extra 20 euros or something to get like take a taxi to go somewhere. And I always put my safety first before being cheap. And I'm a very cheap traveler. I very much look for all of the tips and tricks and things like that to save money, but I will always put my safety first before anything else.
I appreciate that you're bringing that up. Definitely make sure you have some extra money. Make sure you have cash on you, whether it's, hey, someone approaches you and you give them cash and then you're safe, or just so that you can get to the next destination. When does travel planning actually start for you? Let's say it's at least a 2-week trip. So I think this is great timing because you're going somewhere in the new year early. So how far in advance have you started to plan this?
Good question.
Awkward
Have we actually planned anything? No.
Wait, I'm going to rephrase the question for both of us. How far out do you start thinking about it and pencil drafting in your brain?
Okay, I would say like a couple months.
Okay.
It's kind of like the idea, let's say what time of year you want to go to places and then working from there. So we knew that we wanted to go to Canada for Christmas. That was something that I wanted to do because we always switch Canada versus the Netherlands Christmases. So this year's Canada. And then from there, it would just make more sense to fly from Canada to Central America instead of flying from the Netherlands to Central America. So that was kind of the idea for a couple months at least. And then we booked the flight to Canada. And then we booked the flight from Canada to Central America. So those are the things that have been booked now. And that is within a month range.
So it is November. When did you book Canada?
Beginning of December.
Wait, no.
Or what do you mean?
When did you actually book the flights to Canada?
Sunday.
Okay.
3 days ago, 4 days ago.
Okay. And let me just back up, everyone. If you listen in the previous episodes, I was with Shandy in September and they knew they were going home for Christmas. Like, Christmas was so clearly going to happen. I know that the part
Yeah.
B of the trip was unknown and you've changed destinations based on your research.
Yes.
But, okay, cool. So it took 2 months to book flights.
Yes.
And now, but it sounds like you did it as a package deal where you booked Canada and then you also booked part B right after.
Well, and this is where it comes into like calculating everything. So at first it was looking at, okay, was a round trip cheaper or is a one direct flight there or whatever flight there and then finding another flight here and back and forth. So it took a lot of research trying to calculate like different if you're looking on Kiwi versus if you're looking on what is another one?
Skyscanner, just
Skyscanner,
Google
yeah.
Flights, Expedia, all the different.
Yeah, exactly. So you're looking at
platforms.
all of these different platforms. Kiwi is really great because you can put different destinations into your place. So that's like a nice way to kind of calculate different things. That's a really good one. Nice tip for that. Like it was so much calculations and where do we want to go for after that? What's the cheapest country to fly to in Central America? From there, where do we want to go? So I think we probably spent 3 or 4 hours just booking those 2 flights. Like it takes a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Again, it's that looking at this is perfect example because you're looking at the part B of the trip to figure out what the part A is and the timing of the part A to the part B. So I think it's worth, folks, if you're going to more than one destination, make sure you're looking at the bigger picture of the trip, considering, yes, this round trip as well, what's more affordable. And you kind of have to do some spreadsheeting and note taking and comparison. So this is also that we actually in the show notes did have budget versus luxury, and Shandy wrote a comment which I think is hilarious. Have we actually ever done luxury? And we're going to talk about what that means. There's budget backpackers, and then there's just money aware, and you're just trying to understand what am I getting for my dollar too. So you may spend more money to get a certain time of a flight or more comfortable flight, but it's just observing what are your choices. I usually book quite last minute.
Yeah. What timeline would you give yourself?
When
Okay, say you're going beginning of December somewhere. When would you have booked that?
So I am going somewhere near the beginning of December, and I booked it Monday night, November.
Okay.
So 3 weeks time.
So we're very much the same, Anna. Come on.
Yeah. I will say in Europe, I don't find the flight prices to change that much. I think in Canada, it's really, you have to book, especially if you're going long distance. There's definitely some huge flight deals. And especially in the holiday season, you can get a better deal. They really jack prices around spring break, summer, the holiday season. But in Europe, I just don't find them to fluctuate that much. And if you wait later, sometimes you get a better deal. So maybe I've just become lazy around this. This is where the type B, I get into a B minus, because I'm like, meh. And so, yeah, I did take anyway, you gotta listen to next week's Chitty Chat to hear my stupidity, but
I can't wait to hear this.
Maybe I'll tell you after the pod to preface it. But penciling it in, I'm thinking maybe, honestly, 2 to 6 months ahead of time. But often the pencil gets erased because once I finally do research, plans change. So there we are.
Of course. Yeah. Then you become a little bit more figuring out what's the best place to go, or if you want to do something in a different place and it just doesn't make sense, then that's great. It's nice to change when you can. And what is something that you've learned that doesn't need to be planned early?
Yeah. So the A in me likes to know when I'm arriving to maximize my time, but something that I really shifted to the B in me, this is what this episode's apparently going to be about, type A versus B, is walking tours, activities, sightseeing. I find, especially because I'm often traveling off season, I will say, so let's use visiting Rome and going to the Vatican. This is a ticket you need to book in advance. This is highly desired, in high demand. So if you want to go to Machu Picchu, yes, you're probably going to have to book a guide. These high tourist places, you need to do research and book in advance. However, those are things just I'm not doing in my travel right now. So I often wait until I've experienced a place. Also, this longer term, I get to meet folks. I get to understand what's happening. I'm going to some random handball game on Sunday because we got a flyer on the street. Just there's certain things that are happening because you get to learn the environment that you're in. But these big experience, yes, you need to book in advance. So I often book them the day before, honestly. I just try and check weather, check my schedule, and also because I'm working remotely, just seeing what is best with what I'm doing during the week. And
so just to clarify, you would book, like, let's say the smaller things like walking tours or
Mhm.
going to a game or something like that. You would book that maybe the night before, but then those big experiences like skydiving or Machu Picchu or going to the Vatican or something, then that would be in advance. You would book it.
I would never book skydiving, but
Really?
no,
Really?
girl, I do not like heights. I don't think you know this about me.
I also don't, but I did it. It's fine.
No, thank you. Yes, I think you can wait to book all your activities until you arrive, but pencil them in. Which ones do you want to do? What are kind of interest points? Is a cooking
Yeah.
class of interest point? Start to observe it, but you might just find better deals or working with more local providers. Also, just thinking about the local economy and giving back to them in terms of who you're working with. You may find local providers better if you're actually in the destination when you book them, and also paying cash or card on the spot versus using a booking platform. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the podcast. It's your travel friend Anna here, inviting you to join my online co-working club called Productivity Pals. It happens every Tuesday. You can join from anywhere in the world, and it is the perfect opportunity for you to get something off your to-do list that has been on there for way too long, whether it be booking travel, completing a project, finally working on that pitch, or getting that email sent that you have been procrastinating for probably too long. So join us on Tuesdays. You can find all the info at yourtravelfriendanna.com, and we'll get back to the episode.
I think that's a great tip, is to keep in mind what you want to do so that you don't miss out on it or something. Like if you have a list of things that you for sure need to / want to do, then keep that list, keep it in sight. So then when you're going to look at booking things, then you don't forget about it. And then you leave and you're like, oh crap, I wish I would have done that. Or looking back. And of course, like looking at money as well. If the cost to experience ratio is there and if that's worth it for you, then for sure, like make that list and do some research into it and plan it accordingly.
Definitely. So, and if we're talking about this type A and type B, which we're going to continue with, what's one tip that you think someone could become a little bit more relaxed in their travel planning, and one tip that they could become more organized if they want to be a little bit more put together when going somewhere?
Honestly, I'm maybe a little bit biased in this, but I think it's great to be a little bit of both. So if you're really type A, really try to push yourself into being more type B. So don't book every single minute of the day and just see, don't figure out what cafe you're going to walk into. Just walk around and find a nice cafe and just kind of push yourself in those ways, because traveling isn't just about taking a checklist and checking everything off. It's also about experiencing things. So making yourself a better person in different ways. So maybe it is, and if you're super rigid in your everyday life, maybe it's great to push yourself into a little bit of spontaneity here and there. And then vice versa. If you're kind of a chaotic person in your day-to-day life, you're more of the type B that you're like, oh, whatever happens, happens, then maybe try to plan a couple of things and just push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. And I think that's, either way, it's really great and you get to experience different ways. Maybe you do realize as a type B that you love being a type A traveler. Maybe that's something that you love to do. I don't know. Who knows?
Don't think I've ever heard of that happening, but who knows? I think as well for me, it is about, I love the example you just gave actually about walking around to find a cafe versus the one you have on your list. One thing that I think is happening more often with travelers is, we see something on TikTok, we see something on Instagram. Oh, I have to go to this cafe. I saw it online. Maybe that cafe is actually not what you're looking for. So yes, have this list, this backup. I think that's where a type B traveler could do a little bit more of having a backup. But the spontaneity of walking around, just reading the environment, meeting people. Maybe the coffee's not so good, but the environment and the people are so warm and friendly and you're learning about the culture, versus maybe it is really nice coffee and really aesthetically pleasing, but you don't get to interact with anyone there. So yeah, having this variety of information.
And it also depends on what you're looking for too, right? Like if you're just looking for a good cup of coffee, then yeah, sure, go on Google or go on TikTok and look for that nice cup of coffee. But if you're really looking to experience the culture and doing different things, then maybe do a little bit more research into where would be a good place, or just walk around and see where the locals are going and then hit that place up.
Yeah, I love sitting where all the men are sitting coffee and smoking a cigarette.
We live the smell.
Do we? No, but it's fun.
No.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about this, but what's the difference between budget travel and luxury? What does this definition mean to you, Shandy?
Yeah, I mean, like if I think about budget traveling, I'm thinking about looking at the flights. How much are we spending on the flights, and keeping kind of an Excel document or tally of how much we're spending on different things, accommodation, food, how much we want to spend on food every day. luxury in my mind is just you don't have to worry about those things. You can just book whatever flight you're comfortable with. Maybe if you can even do first class, you do first class. Accommodation wise, you just book the nicest one that's closest to the city center, and it's the biggest one. You have a bathroom and a shower and all these kinds of things to your own. And then food wise, you just eat out every single meal, and that's fine. Like, you can do whatever you want when you want. You buy souvenirs, all those kinds of things. So for me, it's very different, the dichotomy between these two. I obviously myself relate to more of the budget travel person, and I think I speak for you as well when that comes to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that one is worse than the other. And sometimes I do wish I could travel more luxuriously, but then I do also know that if I travel more a budget-friendly way, then my money goes a lot longer. And sometimes I see that if I'm looking around at those luxurious travelers and they're spending a lot of time in like those places with pools or something, or they look really fancy and very aesthetic, then I just think like the amount of money that they spend in that week, I can stay there for 2 months.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you said. I do feel we could change the term about budget traveler, because you could have 10,000 euros to spend in a month versus 2,000 euros, and you would still be a budget traveler at 10,000.
Yeah.
However, I
Yeah.
think money aware, I wrote that line for this episode, but budget traveler is just someone who is thinking about their money as they move along. Yes, seeing how far it goes. You might still go to a Michelin star restaurant. However, you may then eat breakfast back at your accommodations, and your lunch, you may cook your own food. So it's about this balance. Whereas luxury, yes, to me just means we don't have to think. We can just eat out because we want to eat out. We don't have to think about taking a taxi versus taking the bus. However, I feel like the buses always are the places where you have those moments of discovery, and you hear the language and you hear the people. And if you were just in a taxi and Adele was playing, it's just not what you're looking for. Like, you just don't get that same vibe. How does it feel when you're a little bit more money conscious, or your budget is lower? So we're working with a tight budget, versus even if you have more money, you're on a higher budget. What's that experience like? Have you ever come across that?
Yeah, I mean, I've had myself the same experience, let's say, when I was traveling when I was in university versus traveling now when I have my own job and actually making some money. Yeah, of course, the travel experience is different. And when you're traveling with no money and you're trying to be very budget friendly, when you're staying in hostels and staying in places that, like have bed bugs or something like that, then it's always like, yeah. No, but then it's also, I find those things have the best stories, because then I also look.
Yes.
I mean, of course, hindsight's 20/20, and you always look on the past more fondly. But I look back at those times being like, those were character building times, and those were times that I will always remember, and it was fun, and it's great. But now I also very much character building. Yeah, you become more resilient.
Oh my gosh.
No, but then the more, let's say, I'm not going to say more expensive, but then you spend a little bit more money when you're traveling, then you do realize what you get for that money too. So you get a little bit
Definitely.
nicer place, so you're not sharing a hostel room with 10 other people. Maybe you're sharing it with one other person, or you're staying in a hotel for the first night or something like that. You can just kind of splurge a little bit more on those things, and you do realize that you get a bit better sleep sometimes, or a better recovery, or the
Yes.
food that you eat is not just like canned tuna, but you actually have like a sandwich or things like that. So you do see that difference, but both different experiences, both different character buildings.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's also, I find the hardest part about solo travel and then joining other people, whether it be friends, experiencing it with a partner, it's just conflict of interest. It can be at times, understanding. And I think it's a piece of communication that you need to have. If you're going on a trip with friends, what is everyone's expectation about spending money? What are our budgets going forward? Are we a breakfast in the hotel kind of people? I remember going to Vegas years ago, and I said we wouldn't tell stories, but 2016, I went to Vegas with 7 girls, 4 in one room, 3 in the other. I was in the room with 3. We asked for a kettle so that we could have oatmeal. We bought peanut butter, instant oatmeal, and we had like a nice full breakfast. The other room, I don't know if they ate before 3 p.m., So it's
Really?
just like just
Okay.
different kind of people of how we were preparing
Yeah.
ourselves versus there was a reason I went with the 3 room at that time. But just making sure that you're in alignment.
Yeah, that's 100% it. And having that conversation before you book everything. So knowing, what kind of person, if they're type A, type B, how much money they're willing to spend on this trip that you're going to take together, if it's just a short-term trip versus long-term, what the plans are, how much you want to do throughout the day, if you want to stay super busy or if you want to just linger around a cafe for a couple hours. What is your whole idea behind the trip? And if you have that conversation beforehand and stay communicative about that, that solves so many problems when you're on the trip. That just avoids all of the big blow ups that could happen, because there's a lot of stress when it comes to traveling as well. So just avoid that completely. Best tip that there is.
Yeah, because some people don't want to sit at a cafe and people watch. They think that's a waste of money. They're super
Yeah.
down to just have some instant coffee back at their accommodations if they need a caffeine kick. Whereas I find that a whole experience that I'm willing to pay for. And the one thing I'm always willing to pay for, it is my one piece of luxury, I call it, is I pay for an aisle seat, because I can get travel anxious and I like to know I have the freedom of exiting to use the bathroom, to stretch my feet, also just a little bit of elbow room if I'm working on my laptop. So this is the one piece of luxury I always pay for. However, Shandy, I think, is opposite.
Yeah, I'm a window girly. I'd hate the aisle seat because I would get bumped. I'm trying to sleep as much as I can, and I hate the aisle seat. But I would never pay extra for that seat. What I've noticed sometimes, let's say like longer flights going to Canada or something, if you check in early enough or as soon as the check-in comes, then you can just pick your own seat and you don't have to pay extra for it. Then I would be, toss up between sometimes window or aisle. That's fine. Never a middle seat. I don't know if anybody would actually ever choose the middle seat, and if you are, maybe you're psychotic. I'm not sure, but going from
maybe if your partner liked, like, what do you do when you're with your partner?
Yeah, okay, then we'll take the middle seat, but I don't like the middle seat.
So
it's
who
more
sits
of like
in the middle?
Then it's a toss up. If I fly on the window seat to Canada, then he flies on the window seat back from Canada.
Okay.
So it's always like a trade up that way. But anybody that chooses the middle seat, I don't know what's going on in your head, but it's fine. You do you. But what I have noticed is let's say the longer flights to Canada or to the States or wherever you're flying to, if you don't get that window seat or that aisle seat that you want to have before, sometimes I've had the experience that you just go up to the check-in counter when you get there. So you've already gone through security and everything. You go up into the counter right before you board the flight and you just say like, hey, are there any seats that are still available? Like, is there anything open? And is there potentially a window seat? And if you're polite and respectful to them, 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh yeah, sure, I'll just move you over here, especially if you're traveling solo. If you're traveling with partner, then okay, that makes sense that maybe they won't move you around. You can get very far in life by just being polite and respectful and just asking for something. And if they say no, then they say no, and then it's fine. But get very far with that.
You're so Canadian. Anyway, I don't think that would work in like flying. I think it's long haul. Flights. I feel like short flights, like when I flew in Serbia, they don't care. They're just like, get on the flight. Let's go.
For the hour flight, it doesn't really matter either ways. But I mean, for that 9-hour flight, there's a big difference between the middle seat and the window or aisle seat. So
100%.
Worth the ask.
Also, as an aisle seat person, I will always move for you if you need to use the washroom. So never be afraid if you need to get up and stretch your legs and your feet. Be bold about it and ask. Okay, so accommodations. Let's move through our list here. We talked in a previous episode how Shandy is obsessed with rectangle tables. So I am taking this. And also, Shandy, where I'm staying right now, there is multiple circle tables. You would be having a fit, but everything else is perfect here. So
Good.
It's a toss-up. And one thing for me, hostels, is curtains on the beds. It makes a huge difference for sense of privacy and for just a little bit of, you don't have someone staring at you while you're sleeping. And then also I really look for, in a common space, if there's an actual stovetop and a real table where I might be able to get some work done. In apartments, if I'm going to stay in an apartment, laundry is a big one. That's probably one of the main reasons I'm staying at an apartment. Again, just cooking supplies, and whether it either has a patio or a kind of terrace, or we're near a space where we can have some outdoor time. I notice that makes a big difference to my mental health, some sunshine and some outdoor time. Anything for you that's really keen on accommodations?
Yeah, I love that. Rectangle tables for sure. You already mentioned that. That's my go-to. Of course, I'm used to traveling with my partner, so then we usually like hardly ever stay in hostels, or if we do, we buy or we get just the single room. But good Wi-Fi we always look for, because we are working most of the time from the place that we are, or we go to a co-working place, but most of the time we work from the restaurant, from the hotel or whatever.
How do you do that? How do you check that before you go?
You just send a message to the host if you're going on Airbnb or something, or you can see reviews too. So if somebody mentions that the Wi-Fi is bad, then we don't book that. Or we message the host on Airbnb and say like, how is the Wi-Fi? What download speed do you have? Blah, blah, blah. And are usually pretty good with that.
What is a good
That's
download speed? I need to
Girl, I don't
remember
know.
this information.
They're asking the wrong person here. I don't know. I'm barking
Pat
up the
does
wrong
it.
tree.
We're gonna find that information out so we have a number for
Yeah.
you for in the
Yes.
future.
No, but another really good thing that we always look at too is if we're traveling to a specific place to see the place, then we kind of calculate location versus the cost of transportation to get to the center. So, for example, if you're
Okay.
in Rome and you find a really nice hotel or hostel or whatever on the outskirts of Rome, but it costs you like 20 euros to get into the center every day, then yeah, that is maybe it's worth to spend an extra 40 euros per night to stay locally or like centrally. And then that saves, I mean, maybe you're spending the same amount of money, but then you have a better experience overall. You're more in the center, you feel safer, it's more people around, all that kind of stuff. So we always look at the cost of the location versus the cost of transportation and kind of calculate that way.
That's really good information. I think this is also, you have to know yourself a little bit more. When people ask, like, do you learn more about yourself in travel? This is where you do learn about yourself because you understand that you emphasize, again, that cafe culture or being around people, especially in these cities. And if that's not something you're seeking, then maybe staying on the outskirts of town is important. Food on the road, this one's always a variety. I'm a bit of a foodie, but also being a vegetarian, currently spending a lot of time in the Balkans. The food for me is very similar at most restaurants and fluctuating between countries as well. So I'm not seeking out food here, really. I cannot wait to go to Italy and demolish some arancinis, so many of them, and like literally just buy all the balls of mozzarella. But anyway, I'm like so excited for this. And just like
I see your eyes lighting up.
just like normal cheese again. I do really like actually some Balkan cheeses, but my rule is kind of like 1 day maximum if I'm staying somewhere shorter. If I'm staying somewhere really long term, I honestly cook mostly myself. And sometimes it's like girl dinners, trying my best to be creative in making food. Yogurt bowls are really important in the morning to get like breakfast going, but I find just better consideration for health and knowing what's going in my body. And then it also helps me know if I start to feel burnt out, it's like, hey, let me look at my nutrition. What have I been consuming? If I'm starting to feel maybe a little bit weak, I also, being vegetarian, understand iron levels. I take an iron supplement, protein levels. If I'm, again, feeling kind of like my muscles are kind of feeling funny, I'm like, have I had protein? Enough protein? I do get some. It's a misconception that vegetarians get nothing. What's your rule around food or some considerations you have?
No, 100% exactly what you just said. I think that's what we do as well with traveling. Always make sure, let's say, like I really like to eat out to experience the culture and experience the food around that country. However, it is pricey to eat out every meal of the day. And exactly what you just said, I also noticed that if you eat out every meal of the day, I just feel a lot more lethargic, tired, just like overall not as great, maybe because of all the sodium that's in all of the food that they cook at restaurants and things like that. So it's always just having that trade-off of, okay, I want to experience the culture, eat the food, but I also want to make sure that I'm giving myself the amount of nutrients that I need. And so it's making sure that I'm getting enough. I always like to ask myself if I'm getting enough vegetables in every meal, yes or no. If I'm eating some sort of vegetable or fruit, yeah. Am I getting a carb? Am I getting a protein? And am I getting some sort of fat? And if I'm getting all of those things in a meal, then I know that I've got a good job and I should be feeling good. And just always, like you said, check in with yourself and see how you're feeling. And if you're feeling off, maybe to something you're eating and just making those small changes. And that's really helpful when you're traveling.
I also want people to encourage people to listen back to our episode with Brittany Lent, the dietitian.
Yes.
Amazing episode talking about food while traveling. And also this idea of zooming out. If you're on a 1 week vacation, eat the food, have the ice cream, like eat everything that you want and just enjoy yourself.
Yes.
The next thing we have on our list, our outline here, is the how do you get around a place. So I want to I'm going to rate mine of ideally how I get around a place, which is short and long distance in the same list. Biking is my favorite. I love cycling. Then a train is my next favorite. Then walking everywhere. But sometimes walking, I just wish I could be faster. So maybe running. And then a bus. And then flying. Well, bus and flying are kind of the same, but I love trains and I love bicycles to get around destinations. Do you have a different order?
I would say probably walking first. I'm not a huge fan of biking, but here that's kind of the norm.
I've seen Shandy bike. She's a nervous biker.
I hate it. I hate it so much. But walking, I love it. What did you call it? The Shoelace Express in a different episode?
Express, baby. Vroom, vroom.
I love it. Yes. So walking, you get your movement in, you get to see everything nice and slowly. I love it. Then I would say, yeah, train if you're going from city to city or like within maybe metro kind of thing or
Mhm.
tram. That's a great way to get from one end of a city to another if it's bigger. Love that. And then, yeah, with biking, I find it great for longer term stays because then you can rent a bike or something. But I guess
Yes.
shorter term you can also. But it's just the logistics of finding a bike to rent and then also like making sure that you have to return it afterwards and all those kinds of things. So for example, living in the Netherlands, it's great to have a bike. If I were to visit here for a week, I don't know if I would ever rent a bike or not. I think I would just suck it up and walk.
But I think I still would want to because it's so much part of how you get around the Netherlands. But this maybe goes back to
Yeah.
accommodations. If you know you're in a destination that is really bike friendly and it's a mode of transportation there, asking your
Yeah.
host, hey, do you have a bike? Because people have extra bikes. You had an extra bike that you forgot about and it ended up being enough for my week stay, right? Like I'm not looking
Yeah.
for the nicest bike. We just need something to get around. So I have a bike
Yeah.
right now and it just makes zooming around this town so much easier. And I can just go and have coffee and come back and not have to spend 30 minutes, an hour to like get
That's
to every
true.
destination.
Yeah. Especially if you're on time crunch or something, then it's great
Hmm.
to have something that's a quicker mode of transport. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever rent a car or a scooter?
We rented a scooter in Thailand. That was a great way to get around from because we were in Chiang Mai. That's great. I think
Okay.
that's in Southeast Asia, a great way to get around is on scooter. I mean, we had the van for a lot of the time with traveling, so that was a great mode of transportation, of course. So yeah, rent a car, I would think. But I mean, if you're solo traveling versus traveling with a group of people, it's also different types of transportation as well, right? So if you're solo traveling, sometimes it's not worth it to get a car by yourself. But if you're traveling with a group of people, then it makes more sense to get a car versus taking a train or something like that. So always look at the group of people that you're traveling with. Are you traveling solo with a partner or a group? And then you can kind of go from there with transportation wise and also ask what people are comfortable with as well. Because some people aren't comfortable with driving a stick shift, for example, in Europe. And Europe is a very big stick shift thing. So that's
Manual
also
for
something.
people. This is a
Yeah.
Canadian term, stick shift.
Is
But
it? Okay.
But we both
Manual.
can drive manual standard stick shift, which is a rarity for where we come from. But yes, I agree. I think that's a bit of that luxury budget too, because if you rent a car
Yeah.
and you have more people, it just makes it more affordable. But it might be a luxury item for you to rent a car and go out and explore. I've only rented a car twice, once in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and then once for the pop-up co-living in Montenegro. Both times really nice to be able to hop from multiple places, but we definitely had the day planned of why having a car was more important. So I think that's where that
Hmm.
type A, a bit more planning and research to maximize. Even
Yeah.
if you were luxury, like you've got the car, so make the most of it.
Yeah. Well, and it's also the location, right? The location where you
Yes.
are. So, for example, in Southeast Asia, it's easier to get around with taxi or things like that because it's cheaper, or with a scooter, renting a scooter. But if you're in Europe, then it's easier maybe to get around with trains or with buses or things like that. But in Canada, you need to have a car in order to get around from different places because the public transport is not there. So it's really knowing the area that you're
Yes.
in and figuring it out from there as well. Yeah.
Someone asked one of the Canadian travelers, if you listen to the Chitty Chat at the beginning of this episode, what is like the metro called where you're from? And they were like, there is none.
It's true.
Oh, that was great. It's terrible, but it's funny. It's true. There's some cities in Canada that don't have any metro and transportation, public transportation.
Very
Okay,
true.
to get to wrapping us up shortly, is there something that always slips through the cracks that you feel you one always forget, something that a traveler should know about? Do you have any tip here?
Making sure that you have cash on hand if you need, and especially
Yeah.
what type of like what currency you're going into, because some countries have different currencies when you're going into it. In Europe, lots of euros around in different countries, but then if you're going to more of the eastern countries in Europe, then you have to make sure that you have that currency and things like that. And yeah, like we always make sure that if we are taking out money in a certain country, we look for the ATMs that have like zero or little, no, like to no charges when it comes to taking out money. But then sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and take out some money too if you're not prepared with those things. So that's also something that we need to look into, and that's something that we usually forget about because it's so easy to just use your phone to pay for a lot of things in a lot of countries. So needing cash is something that you sometimes forget about. What about you?
I echo everything. In Europe, I think having a chunk of euros is really helpful because some
Mhm.
countries that for speaking on the Balkan countries, sometimes they will accept euro in like an emergency situation, and it's easy to convert euros to the local currency, US dollars as well. So as Canadian travelers, not always will they accept Canadian dollars. So that's why having some euros is important. Yeah, and find the ATMs that are fee-free. I'm currently somewhere where I just literally Googled what is a fee-free bank, and I found one, and I'm telling everybody about it because otherwise it
Yes.
would cost me €5 to take out maybe less money.
Yeah.
And then this also makes not having to take out as much money. I can take out little bits because there's not going to be as much for, to take out the money.
Yeah. I think overall that's the best tip that you can say is just saying like Google something beforehand and prepare yourself for it before you get into the situation where you have to very quickly figure something out and then you have to make a panic decision. So Googling, for example, if you have to take out cash, Googling where's the best place, or if you have to get to some place, what's the best mode of transport to get there, something like that, and prepare yourself. And I think that's where becoming a type A traveler sometimes comes in handy. But
For
again,
sure.
spontaneity is also great. So take your pick.
For sure. Okay. And the last thing is download my packing list just in case you
Yes.
forget something. I have a free packing list. You can download it and I use it myself. I feel I remember everything. My neighbors back home, they have been world travelers and she's like, oh, it was good. I forgot some things like little things like lip chap, sunscreen, a scarf, these little pieces that you
Yeah.
might forget about. I also had an advice. There is reading the blogs. I do think they're still worth it to find these little nuances. I'm going to also say mindtrip.ai is an AI platform. It is a robot talking to you, but it's very interesting because you can ask it for advice of 10 things to do on a budget, or, hey, that was too expensive. Can you give me a cheaper choice? So I'm starting to use that a little bit. So you can check it out, Mindtrip.
Yeah.
And of course, Shandy's favorite, ChatGPT. Ask it for some
Actually,
quick tips. Oh,
yeah. But to plan all of our trips, we use Lonely Planet. That I
Lonely
think is,
Planet.
yes.
Okay.
And we buy the books for it. That's something like I'm very old school when it comes to those. Like I love having the paper, but I love just being able to bring that and then disconnect from your phone. So instead of looking up different tips like on ChatGPT or something, then we just have the paper book and we're walking around and being able to kind of read the map old school, figuring out, okay, this is where you go. That comes for us some of the best experiences that we've had. So Lonely Planet, 100%. They have a lot of different books that are like for country specific or let's say area specific. So we just bought the Central America book. We also bought like the northern countries of Europe. So like Norway, Sweden, Finland. Those are really great books too. So 100% recommend it. It's great to just detach from your phone.
Yeah, I've seen your books and also borrow from friends. Like there's no
Yeah,
reason why those books can't be used by other
100%.
people. On the flip side, I'm going to go digital. I create map lists as well that I can send to you if you're part of
Yes.
my community, that I pin things. Shani looks at the book, I look at my phone, and I pin things and write little notes about, again, because I'm vegetarian, maybe that this restaurant was really good, if they accept card or cash, where to do laundry, things you should see.
Yeah.
And so there's many variations of map lists out there from other creators
Yeah.
as well. So support some local creators and people
Yeah.
who are taking the time to put this information together for you.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw this in here too. Like if whoever's listening is not in Anna's travel group right now, please join it, the WhatsApp group, because that is also such a great way to plan your trip as well. You get to talk with people that have been to the countries beforehand, ask good tips. Like when we were in, where was that? Somewhere I asked for a good tip in Luxembourg, and we had
Yes.
the best apple pie there because
Yeah.
of somebody that had tried it before, and we were there and we're like, this is amazing. We would have never found this place without it. So props to Anna's group. If you're not in it, you're missing out.
Thanks, Shani. Yeah, it's your travel friend community. And it's a mix of locals and visitors and
Hmm.
travelers. And I think this is really my goal with it, is to find people who you're like, this is my neighborhood, go check it out. But also, hey, my experience was really good. Go to this place. Simple questions like these, like bank fee questions, can be answered there too. Okay, any final thoughts, Shani? Because otherwise I think this was a very great episode filled with lots of tips and tricks. And if anyone has anything to share, write it in the comments below. Do you have any closing thoughts for us?
Just enjoy the process of traveling. That's the whole part. And it's, again, I'm going to bring it back, the character building of planning it and going through the trip and coming out feeling like you accomplished something because you planned and you did it all, and just enjoy it. Enjoy the process.
I love that. And just remember, nothing is going to be perfect. leave some room, my type A travelers, to be a type B traveler. And type B travelers, don't make type A's do all the work, plan a little bit too. All right. This is the Where She Builds podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Send this episode to a friend who might be traveling or planning a trip soon. I am Anna, your travel friend Anna, joined always by Shandy at Coach Shandy. You can find these episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. And we will see you in next week's episode. Ciao for now.
Thanks for listening.